In this video, I will be unboxing the Daniel Smith 12 half pan hand-poured palette set. This is considered an artist grade paint, and it's quite different from the student grade paint that I have been using, and I'm going to give my compare and contrast views on both of these sets. The palette comes in this nice metal encasement. It has a finger ring holder in the back and the Daniel Smith logo printed on the front. The actual size of the palette seems really manageable. It isn't too bulky, it doesn't take up too much space. I really like that. It has a color chart inside, which is a really good feature. For any new palette, swatches should be done, but for the palette to come with its own color chart is very handy. Even though the palette only comes with 12 half-pan colors, it also comes with 12 half-pan empty cartridges for future use. I really like that because it seemed like the palette would grow with me and I could keep it instead of ditching it and getting something brand new when I wanted more colors. When deciding to upgrade my paints to an artist grade paint palette, there were a lot of different options to choose from. I did some research to see which brand I wanted to go with, but it seemed like Daniel Smith was a big name in the art industry and it was a favorite used by so many of the artists that I admire. Once I decided on the brand, there were still a lot of different options when it comes to palettes. There were smaller palettes that just had one color but different shades of that color, and then there were smaller palettes that seemed more suitable for travel. Not all of the 12 half-pan palettes had these specific colors, so the options were more than just how many cartridges there are, but also which colors you wanted to choose from. There were also palettes with more colors, but something to keep in mind is that when you upgrade to an artist grade palette, it is more expensive than what you would get for a student grade. So even though you're getting more colors, you're also spending more money. So you should be thinking about whether or not the colors that are added to the palette are worth the extra money. For the type of art I'm creating right now, it seemed like the 12 half-pan palette was the way to go. At the time of this recording, this particular palette was being sold on Amazon for $66, and with tax it came to a little over $70. Included with the purchase was a cute little postcard and also a little sample of the new colors for 2025 on a dot sheet. The colors included on this free dot sheet are John Brilliant number 1 and 2, Manganese Violet, Cobalt Green Deep, Earthy Light Red, and Coral Reef. Because artist grade paints are pretty expensive, these dot sheets are a great way to sample the colors before committing to buying it. The dot sheets can be a little misleading because it looks like it's not a lot of paint, but because the paint is so highly pigmented, each dot can hold a pretty good amount. Along with buying the 12 half-pan hand-poured palette, I also got a 66 color dot sheet by Daniel Smith. And at the time of this recording, it was being sold on Amazon for around $8. So the fact that the 12 half-pan palette came with a little free dot sheet is that much more appealing in my purchase. So even though the product comes with its own little color chart, I still wanted to swatch each color to see how it looks on watercolor paper. So because I only had ever painted with student grade paint, I didn't really know that there was so much of a difference between student grade and artist grade. The reason why I decided to make the jump is because when I was painting with my student grade palette, it seemed like the red I was using just wouldn't stay that bright, saturated red that I needed for my paintings, and I thought that going to an artist grade paint would make it a little bit more vibrant. So my expectations were kind of low, but I was honestly blown away at the difference between the artist grade paint and the student grade. The saturation was unreal. The fact that I could do a swipe with my brush, it would hold so much paint. The paint was so vibrant. It really made a really big difference. When first starting out in watercolor, I didn't really have much criteria on what I wanted to buy as my first palette. I ultimately purchased the Artistro 168 watercolor paint set, and it came complete with a mixing tray, 6 brushes, a water tube brush, a pencil, a sharpener, and an eraser. And for me, for $29.99, this looked like a really good purchase, and I figured the more colors, the better. The interesting part is I didn't even use all of the colors. So these are the swatches of the colors that I've used so far in the palette, and you can tell that there are some colors that I reach for very often, and there are other colors that are completely untouched. With no reference point, I thought that it was typical to have to return to the palette multiple times during a painting, that having to mix up the palette colors more than once, and that the colors would lose saturation over time. I didn't realize that there were other ways to go. The difference in saturation between a student grade palette and an artist grade palette are huge. It makes the painting time so much quicker, and it makes the mixing so much easier. I'm grateful for my student grade palette because when I started out in watercolor, I didn't have to waste expensive paints, and also there were pre-mixed colors available to me. But now that I'm a little bit more experienced in color mixing and color theory, I feel like the artist grade palette is going to be a huge upgrade and really take my paintings to a whole new level. In my next video, I'll be painting with this palette for the very first time and sharing my honest first impressions. So stay tuned if you want to see how these colors perform on paper. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.